Okay. All right. Just getting everything up here. Oh, did I not? Oh, I have to admit him. All right, there's Dantes. Hey, Dantes.
How are you?
Good, good. Just waiting for Bill, because Bill's very groovy, as you know. Oh, hold on. I got to mute. This is live here. There we go. All right, so I'm just monitoring Facebook, and Frank just chimed in. Local beer slinger had Peroni on sale. It's not J&B. It'll have to do. Well, first world problems there, Frank.
Yeah. Well, because tonight's genre, the Giallo, is notorious for including J and B. And there's like J and B in every single one of them.
That's hilarious. I didn't even notice that. That's so funny. All
Where's
right.
our
So,
TVs? We're missing our TVs.
yeah, I had an issue, and that's why my microphone doesn't sound good. I'm on a different computer tonight, and it's my
Okay.
fault for waiting till the last minute, but I did have busy. It's like just constantly busy. But anyways, welcome folks to episode 33 of Fright Lounge, the show in which the best horrorologists in town will discuss horror in depth and get a conversation going for the seasoned viewers as well as people who maybe don't even know if you want to get into horror, but I think you'll like it if you listen to our discussion. I am Rigor from the podcast Then Is Now, The East Meets the West, and Cult Movie Lounge. And I'm joined, of course, with my co-hosts, excuse me, Bill Van Ryn from Groovy Doom, and of course, Dantes Alexander, the Prince Regent of electronic dance music. Welcome, guys.
Hello, 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 hello.
Hello. Hello,
So
everyone.
what's been going on? Anything interesting?
Nothing really on my end, other than watching these new films and getting caught up on all of the new horror that is happening in the world. Yeah.
Nice. Bill?
Yeah, I'm trying to escape the real world right now.
Me and you both. Oh God. I wish
So
this was alcohol instead of coffee.
it is
So,
in a fancy glass though. That is
there you go. It's
look, my
because
glass is a
it's not
jar.
fancy.
That's still pretty fancy too. I love a good mason jar.
Mine's just a plastic iced coffee cup.
He's got the OG tumbler over there.
So, folks, just want to let you know that Mike Hill is taking a break from the show, so he won't be joining us for I'm not sure how long. Hopefully, he'll come back soon. But anyways, tonight we are going to cover several Italian Giallo films, including Blood and Black Lace from 1964, directed by Mario Bava, The Bird with the Crystal Plumage from 1970, directed by Dario Argento, Don't Torture a Duckling from 1972, directed by Lucio Fulci, and Torso from 1973, directed by Sergio Martino. But before we actually get into that, let me see if I can find this here real quickly. I was, you know how folks who are regular viewers, we show you newspaper ads for the films that we're talking about. And I found a bunch that are kind of random. They don't necessarily they don't coordinate with the films tonight, but they were playing in the same years as where I got the film, ads from. So I just wanted to show them to you. Let me hit share and Sunny if I can do that. There we go. And there's that. Wait, is that the right one? Yeah. This one, tell me if you guys can see this.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep,
great.
we can see it.
They're coming to get you, Barbara. This is, and of course I looked it up. Bill, do you know off the top of your head which this is actually, which film this
Yeah.
is?
That poster is hanging right here in my office. I can't show it to you because the camera's facing the other way. That is
Hmm.
actually All the Colors of the Dark, another
That's right.
Giallo directed by Sergio Martino.
That's right. Yeah, and so I saw this and I had to grab it just because I hadn't heard that title before, and I was like, "Ooh, I wonder what that is." And then I looked it up. Then of course we've got In Search of Dracula and the Beast.
Dracula.
What
Dracula.
is that? What I said? Dracula.
Yeah.
Dracula.
I'm from New England. We add R's where they don't belong.
Dracula.
We don't pronounce them. But In Search of Dracula and the Beast in the Cellar, those I've heard. I've heard the titles, but Bill, any idea on those?
Yeah, In Search of Dracula is one of those it's I don't think it's a Sun Classics film, but it was similar to a Sun Classics film. And oh, hi Linda.
Sorry.
Yeah, I know
Um
Linda.
Also Beast in the Cellar is, somebody imprisoned in a basement and becomes horribly inhuman. It was shown with Blood on Satan's Claw,
Oh,
Beast in the
okay.
Cellar. They were a double feature when Blood on Satan's Claw came out.
Hmm.
So Beast in the Cellar is kind of divorced from its regular mate in this lineup.
Interesting. Yeah. I've seen Blood on Satan's Claw. I think when I first saw that was Joe Bob Briggs was hosting it back in the 80s. All right, and then we've got this, of course, Linda Lovelace and Deep
Yeah.
Throat, which, for those who know the town I grew up in, Stoneham, Massachusetts, that was the last film the movie theater in the square showed before they got shut down.
Like, you know, it's
Uh,
so funny. You watch these like films like that now, and you're like, what's
right. What's the big deal? So this was
Oh my
another one I wanted to know
God.
what it was, and it turns out it's Bill. I know what it is, but do you know?
Yeah, this is one of my favorite films, Ganja and Hess,
Yeah.
directed by Bill Gunn and starring Marlena Clark, who RIP, she died just a few years ago. And she's just an amazing actress and was only in maybe a handful of films.
Hmm.
This is probably like one of her greatest moments was when she was in Ganja and Hess. However, this version of Ganja and Hess, Bill Gunn's original Ganja and Hess was sort of it's a vampire film remade by Spike Lee as the Sweet Blood of Jesus.
okay?
Um,
Hmm.
but this was a distributor got a hold of it and re-edited it and made it like it took like most of the good stuff out and inserted all this other stuff into it that made it sort of a bad movie. Um, there was another title at the same time. Oh, Blood Couple.
Oh, that's funny.
Um, Blood Couple. They sort of like tried to make it a black exploitation film. And even though it is an all black cast, it's not a black exploitation film. It's more of an art film um, in its original form. Highly recommended. It's just amazing, an amazing movie.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to cover that here sometime. I mean, Dwayne Jones is in it. Do I need to say more?
Sounds familiar.
All right, we'll just quickly get to now. This one I found because it just looked cool. It looks
Yeah,
like
that does look neat.
of course I can't seem to zoom it in. Where's the zoom feature? I thought the mouse would just zoom it in. I'm on a new computer, so um well anyways, this looks like one of those old spook shows they used to have, where it says like so realistic that the horrifying monsters jump off the screen and almost touch you because they would have people in costumes leaping out from behind the screen and running through the audience and scaring the crap out of people. And
But
they
well, but this was a 3D movie.
oh, it was a 3D movie.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
this is
all
a
right, I
3D
missed.
movie. Frankenstein's Bloody Terror. There's a really funny story about this movie. It's a Paul Naschy werewolf film, actually,
Right,
called
okay.
Mark of the Werewolf, I think was the original title. It became I think this became Fury of the Wolfman. I don't know. It's kind of confusing, but a
Right,
distributor picked this movie up and they were looking for a Frankenstein film. And of course, it has nothing to do with Frankenstein. It's got a werewolf in it and two vampires, no Frankenstein monsters.
right, that's
There's
right.
like some numbers popping up from, but yeah, it was just kind of weird that they needed a Frankenstein movie and they chose this. So they just put a title on it, Frankenstein's Bloody Terror. And there's a little cartoon that opens it that shows this Frankenstein monster you see in the ad. It's literally just that image, a zoom out on it, and there's a voiceover that starts out talking about Count Frank or Baron Frankenstein and suddenly veers off into werewolves. And that's the last you ever see of a Frankenstein monster.
Right, because Paul Naschy plays Voldemort Daninsky in it again. So, that's funny. Wow, my brain totally forgot Frankenstein's Bloody Terror was a Paul Naschy film. So I apologize to the folks at home for that one.
Yeah,
This was a cool ad for
I
Kingdom
know
of the
this.
Spiders. I didn't see it at first because the way it popped up on my computer screen. I just saw the face there and I was like, oh, that looks so crazy. And then I realized, oh yeah, William Shatner, great movie. Have you not seen this, Dantes?
I know this film just
Oh,
because
okay.
of Captain Kirk.
Yeah. Let's see what else we got. Oh, this was cool. I grabbed this one mainly for the Lost in Space ad because I haven't really seen too many Lost in Space ads and TV guides or whatever. This was in a newspaper TV section. The Hungry Sea. An earthquake may seal up the cave where they are trapped. And that's one of my favorites. It's a two-parter where I forget the temperature's drastically changing on the planet they're on, so they all get into the chariot and the ocean's frozen, so they drive across it, and then they end up finding an ancient cave with all these inscriptions in it, and then they get trapped in it. They escape, they're driving back, but now the ocean's melted because the temperature's going up, and they almost go down a whirlpool. It's one of my favorite episodes.
Wow.
I didn't know
I
you were so into Lost in Space.
Oh, I love Lost in Space. Huge,
My
huge
God, I
fan.
thought I was pretty bad with my Buck Rogers. Good.
Gil Gerard. Oh my God. All right, so I'm going to stop the share there and get back to my notes here. Just checking the chats. Folks, if you want to chime in, you can certainly get on our YouTube page, which is youtube.com, and I think it's changed now. It's like at Uncle Death One, I think, slash at Uncle Death One. And if you're not there, you're probably over here on Facebook watching us there as well.
I'm on the Facebook page. I don't have the YouTube page up though, so I
Okay,
can't
yeah,
see
I
the
have both
YouTube
up.
chat.
Yeah. So far, nothing. All right, so let me give folks at home a brief history and explanation as to what a Giallo film actually is. Giallo, of course, is the Italian word for yellow. And starting in the 1920s, there were a series of murder mystery novels where the spines or the covers were yellow, so they were distinct. When you walked in the store, you could see the section full of yellow books. By the 1960s, I'm sorry, these books were like murder mystery type things. And by the 60s, many of them were turned into movies. And according to IndieWire, and I'm going to read what they wrote here, the term soon shifted to apply to a type of film from auteurs like Mario Bava, Dario Argento, and Lucio Fulci that took the crime and mystery stories and applied a new, stylish, violent bent to them. The site further explains that there's no set rules for what makes a movie a giallo, but you know one when you see one. The plot is almost always a murder mystery, although the tone is far from your average whodunit. The villain is a mysterious killer, often in a disguise that includes black gloves and a trench coat. The hero is typically a young woman, a tormented, helpless outsider in the film's world, and her desperate efforts to evade the killer provide the dramatic meat. The stories are psychological in nature, exploring madness, paranoia, and sexuality.
Mhm.
But these films are remembered less for what they're about than more what they look like and what's in them, basically the gore and the, pornographic or borderline pornographic kill scenes. Um, so the four films that we're covering tonight are some of the finest examples of giallos, and I'm going to show you of the four. I was able to get and
Ooh, that
watch three of them on VHS.
Oh wow. I just knew that you were gonna pull that out somewhere for
I
I
used to
just
have
knew it. Where
that.
did you find that?
eBay.
Get out of here. Is that VHS?
It's VHS. This
Get
is
that
actually not in here. It's
GTFO
filmed at
out of here.
It was
eBay.
Wow.
Anchor Bay, wasn't it?
This one is it Anchor Bay? I
I
don't.
had that,
No, it's
whatever
VCI.
label put that out.
It's VCI. Um, and then this one, Don't Torture a Duckling. I got that on
On
tape.
there too. Wow.
And this is the actual tape. See?
Wow. Wow.
What's interesting is this the one? It might be the other one. They're all widescreen and they all have the trailers at the end of the movie, which
Yeah.
was cool because oh yeah, this one, Torso, which had the trailer at the end, but it had both trailers. It had the trailer for the original title, Carnal Violence, I think, and then it had the American trailer for Torso. And this is the one, and of course, hold on, put my glasses on here. It says some of Torso's English soundtrack was either never recorded or lost. Therefore, some whole or parts of scenes are in Italian with English subtitles. And I remember when we were watching it, I was like, why is that in Italian? And of course, that explained it. Um, And this also it's widescreen. It's got the international, yeah, Carnal Violence trailer, and then the U.S. theatrical trailer, and they're all digitally remastered, and they look great on VHS. They were, like I said, widescreen. And I watched Bird with a Crystal Plumage, I think on Tubi or Prime or one of those, I forget. So, all right. So up first, let's discuss the one that pretty much, as far as I can tell, and Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, Mario Bava's Blood and Black Lace from 1964. That's probably the grandfather of all Giallos, right?
I don't know because it's so sketchy about what the rules are for Gialli, I think would be the appropriate
Plural.
plural term, but I don't know what you're supposed to think as a giallo. Everybody argues about it online. Somebody has to like remember something from the past that's crucial to a case. There's like a private investigation of a murder, and the police are always completely ineffective in giallo films. So that the main characters, of course, have to take up their own investigation and put their lives in danger as the killer, who is also running loose, tries to get them. So I don't know. I guess Blood and Black Lace is stylistically, at least, it's very Giallo-esque. I don't know if it was the first one, but it's definitely the one that was probably the most influential.
Yeah, it certainly ticks all the boxes on the checklist. So here's the synopsis. Isabella, a young model, is murdered by a mysterious masked figure at a boarding house run by Max Moreland and his lover, Countess Christina Como. When Isabella's boyfriend is suspected of the killing, her diary, which has some incriminating evidence linking her to the killer, disappears, and the masked killer starts killing off all the models in and around the house to find the diary. So first impressions, Bill, let's go with you first. Windus, and what was your first impression?
I think the first place I saw it was on that VHS that you just held up, because it was one of those movies that I never saw on TV if it was. And I had to buy it because I had read so much about it. And so that was probably like the 90s, maybe like 94, 95. I can't remember, but it was a long time ago.
And folks, be warned, there's a lot of blood and lace movies out there. It's like you got to specifically look for Blood and Black Lace from 1964.
Yeah, there definitely is.
There's at least one other significant Blood and Lace movie. It's one of the sickest PG rated movies ever made, Blood and Lace from 1971, featuring Melody Patterson from F Troop, I think she was on,
Yeah.
or one of those, Petticoat Junction. Sorry, not F
Yeah.
Troop. And Vic Tayback,
Oh,
Gloria
wow.
Graham, Len Lesser, who was Uncle Leo from Seinfeld.
Oh, wow.
So it definitely looked that one up.
That's funny. So Dantes, was this a first viewing for you?
This was all of these films are a first time viewing for me. Um, I thought this movie was actually pretty good. I thought it was pretty good. I don't want to just like dive into it, but I immediately like had my thoughts. Like when I realized that this was actually like a fashion house, and the Countess automatically, albeit a little longer than Donatello, I'm sorry, a little younger than Donatello Versace, but that was the first thing like that came to my head. I was like, damn.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is Donatello Versace. And we always have like this fascination with like fashion houses, and beautiful models. And so anytime you can combine that and you can kind of create like this art, I don't even want to call it art house because that might be offensive to some people out there, but I almost feel like this would have been like the type of film that I would have studied like in like my art class, growing up, just because of, well, again, like music. Um, okay, I don't want to get too much into it because you're just asking me about my thoughts. Sorry.
That's fine. That's fine. We can start
I
getting
do that
Yeah.
all the time. Sorry.
It's your show too. You do what you want.
Yeah,
Sorry.
we can get into it. I mean, I love the soundtrack since you mentioned it. And there was a brief moment where it's it had these violins going like it sounded like Friday the 13th for a little bit there.
Especially the scene like with gosh, I can't remember her name, but she like ended up like being killed on the furnace. Like the music from that, like that scene was like really, really loud, and we had the music up like I don't know if you guys can see like my lights, but we had just these lights going, and I'd sort of like disappeared out of the living room, and yeah. Needless to say, there was a fright to be had when I came back. So,
That's
but I enjoyed it. Um, I thought it was sort of interesting though, how like models, like whenever you get like this picture of them, especially like when you watch stuff like well, in the past, I'll admit, like, you know, I've watched like America's Next Top Model and all of that, and they always come across as like so naive and so uncultured. And this movie was totally like encapsulating of like all of that naivety. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And I think I had realized who the killer actually was before. Okay, I'm gonna be
No, we're gonna talk about the killer, so yeah,
right.
go ahead. Say it.
but it just was just so serendipitous, right? That the Countess, you know, was the, you know, the killer. And it almost reminds me of like God, what is that other movie? It's really awful and it's so bad that everyone loves it because it's so bad. About, is it Showgirls?
Oh, probably, yeah.
Yeah, but and I hate to go that route, but it almost seemed like the Countess was almost maybe a little jealous of all of the, you know, of the younger, you know, more beautiful, you know, girls. So I just kind of see like a strange sort of representation from modern times through this film. So at
Well, it
least
was also
my
a
opinion.
there were two killers, don't forget. There it
Right.
wasn't just her. There it was like a Scream-esque kind of thing.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
the granddaddy of Scream.
And then
Yeah.
it also sort of like the first thing that I also thought of too was kind of sort of like Jack the Ripper, but just sort of like in my, well, pre, you know, after those times or whatnot. But I thought it was pretty good though.
Yeah. Yeah. What I want to know is how did the villain see through the opaque mask?
I wonder
Yeah,
that every
yeah,
time I watch this
yeah.
fucking movie.
The only thing I can think of is if it's sheer enough like pantyhose that he can see out because it's so close to his eyes, but we can't see in. I mean, that's the
Oh,
only thing
I
some of those
don't know.
Halloween costumes, you ever see the modern Halloween costumes? They have black cloth where the
That you
eyes are
could
supposed
see
to be,
out, but
you can
yeah,
see out. Yeah.
I don't know. That's a good question.
It's a
Um,
mystery that comes to my mind every time I watch Blood and Black Lace. Sorry,
yeah.
but it's just so Mario Bava was just an amazing director, endlessly inventive, and he did a lot of this stuff. There are some fancy shots in Blood and Black Lace, including there's like this amazing dolly shot. I forget exactly where in the film that it happens, and I
Yeah.
was stunned when I started to learn more about Mario Bava, and I realized that he didn't have a whole lot of money to make these movies, and that dolly shot in Blood and Black Lace was him pushing the camera on a wagon. It was like a toy wagon, and he just
Oh,
like
wow.
drove this wagon on. I was like, wow, that just seems like, and he did things like that all the time in his films, just to make
But
it a little more. And Blood and Black Lace, there's an amazing scene. I don't know if you guys, I'm sure you guys both gasped when this happened. It's when, the killer, one of the killers, as we learned later, traps she's in the warehouse, and there's all these things like around there, and there's a flashing neon sign,
yeah,
and she sees him, and then like the sign blinks off, and when it comes back on, he's gone,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is
I definitely
very
gasped at that.
John Carpenter. Obviously saw that.
there's
Yeah.
a lot of like a lot of things that I saw that were sort of reminiscent of other films, like immediately, like with the black gloves and the knives and stuff, like with the quick pacing of the shots. Sometimes it almost reminded me of like Psycho a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like with like the flashes of like, you know, the knife and, you know, like even like there's just something menacing about black gloves, you know. Like, it is, you know, and that sort of like alludes to the suspense because, you know, I don't want to say all killers, you know, when they kill people, you can see their hands, and that at least gives you like a clue, somewhat, not a whole lot, but at least, you know, in your mind, in your visual, you can say, okay, I saw this color hand.
Right. Or it
It's
was a man's hand or a
it was a
woman's.
man's hand,
Yeah.
yeah. and that was the suspense, and that was, I think, what was the ultimate like aha, like fuck you moment was when you realized that the killer, like the hands were obfuscated by the gloves because they didn't want you to know that it was a woman, which I think is so like brilliant.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't expecting that. I'm just being honest. I was not expecting that. It almost reminded me of like Clue a little bit, or
Uh,
like um, or like one of those modern escape house games. We do that a lot, sorry.
oh, that's okay.
Escape room.
Yeah, because we're boring people and we want to be, we want to pay people to lock us the fuck up and figure out like how
I've
we're gonna.
never done that.
Yeah, me neither.
I mean, there's a lot of, I mean, and you guys are both in big cities too, so there's tons and tons of experiences like that. Like you pay, maybe like $200 or $300, to go in a room like with everybody, and you have to figure out like what key unlocks this door. Each
Yeah.
of you, plays a role that the other person may or may not know, and hopefully you'll survive. Depending on what type of game it is, you won't get killed, or you'll survive.
That's awesome. Yeah, I wanted to say there was a couple of things. One is it folks at home, you may or may not know I write soap opera news for a living, and I recently was doing a piece on Days of Our Lives, and what they had a couple of weeks ago was what I called it was an homage to Giallos because something was happening to this characters and this gloved person wearing a trench coat and you couldn't see anything else about them would take a picture of the character and put a big red X through them and stick it up on the wall. And I was like, I had to explain it in my article. I'm like, well, they're referencing Giallo films, and I went into that, and I just thought that was cool. That whoever writes the
My
show,
spouse just sent me a horrible joke, and they said that O.J. Simpson got the inspiration for his killing from the Giallo films.
I was thinking of OJ with the gloves too.
if the glove don't fit. Oh my God. The other thing I wanted to say was, Bill, you mentioned that panning shot, the dolly shot. That I believe that's the one because I remember sort of being blown away where he's he's going past like you see, I don't know, these places were sectioned off. So there's two characters, the three characters talking, and then it stops and focuses on them for a minute, and then it slides over to the next couple of characters, and someone's like running between the maybe talking to them,
Yes.
and then it gets to the end, and then that person's all the way over there. I'm like, wow, that was all in one shot.
That's what I said too. I thought I was really impressed by like just the modern someone had to influence someone had to influence them to create those crazy scenes. I mean, it almost feels like you would have to, especially when you're competing with, crazy people like Alfred Hitchcock and all of his crazy ass camera angles, and but it
Yeah.
just seems like all of the films like from this time, like people were forced to get creative, with the ways that they took these shots. Like I didn't even know that like didn't you say, Bill, that like he literally like had that on like a cart, you know,
Yeah.
like
It was
that
like a
that is like
toy wagon.
yeah, and now, today like they have, a big ass fucking car that, does all of that. And that just goes to show like, the bootstrapping and the creativity that had to go into, getting those shots because you have to create the atmosphere because if you just have good dialogue and, pretty sexy girls who are getting killed, albeit, um, it's not nothing without the camera shots. And I'm serious, like I was really, really impressed by, the camera angles. Like they were very well thought out. And honestly, like when you said that we were going over, the Giallo films, like because I hadn't heard of them, I thought that they were just like some low budget,
What?
like you know what I mean. But just the quality, of these films is just very, very impressive for me. Sorry.
The subject matter is very exploitative in all of these films, but they're not simply exploitation films. These are artistic films.
Very.
There is an artistry to how they're made and how the directors are communicating to the audience. And a lot of that it can be traced back to Hitchcock, especially like the crazy camera angles, and but Bava also originated a lot of this stuff can be traced back to Bava too, because like I said, he was the one who just Hitchcock had, he usually had a pretty big crew behind him or
Big pocketbook too.
yes. And like, Bava was not working with those kind of budgets. So he
Right.
could just make something out of nothing, which is, any great creative, that's going to be a great creative person, somebody that can just fly by the seat of their pants and make something amazing out of it.
Yeah.
The another and since we're talking about camera angles also too, I want to talk about that scene with the fucking mannequins.
Oh yeah.
Like, could you imagine like how difficult it was to actually get that shot and to get it, continuous like every time, like after you, they're like, okay, stop.
Yeah.
Stop, just stop. Can we take it back from, can we take it back, And now we have like, all of this modern technology where you could just go back and look at the dailies and shit like really quickly, you know what I mean? And just be like, oh, this doesn't.
Hmm.
But back then they had to say, okay, someone's job is to sit here and like remember like how this frame actually looked and just for like that mannequin scene, and this is the shit, this is how technical we are, guys, like over here at Fright Lounge. Like, not only are we into the actual acting, but we pay attention to the fucking camera angles, we pay attention to the
Right.
music, we pay attention to everything because we're film people. And we were sitting in here just like so blown away by that mannequin scene just because of like the like scope. I don't know. I can't explain it. It just it was a good shot.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like we said, Bava just does some great stuff. I mean, he's also directed you know, what was it? Zombie. No, that's Fulci. I'm thinking of Fulci. What but Bava's done what's the one I just did oh my
Well,
God.
well, Baron Blood
Well,
was
Yeah.
Mario Bava. Lisa and the Devil.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going right away to my favorite Bava films, but there are
I've
other.
never seen, and these were my first time watching these films. I feel so bad, but I can't be like, yeah, I know those films. Oh.
Yeah. Bay
Well,
of
you're in an enviable position because there's so many great things that you're about to discover if you keep watching them. Like the biggies in the genre are still unknown to you, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
I'm dying to hear what you think
God.
about something like Deep Red, which is
Yes.
one of Dario Argento's most famous films.
Yeah. We're definitely gonna have to circle back because there's so many good Giallos. So I just wanted to share some newspaper ads. Is that the right one? I don't know if this is the right one. Oh no, that's the Lost in Space one. Hold on. Where did the other one go? Ah, there it is. We'll do this one. And you guys can see this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Ooh.
Yeah, there it is.
So now I just got to get all this crap out of my way so I can actually see it myself. Um, yeah, so we've got some ads here. It was playing on a double bill here with
It would have been a great night.
None But the Brave. On the other screen was The Lost World of Sinbad and War of the Zombies.
Oh my God, I wouldn't have known which one to go to. Like that's just like
I know.
War of the Zombies is really boring.
Is it?
is it
That's
really?
not that's not a good movie. Yeah, it's definitely not going to be what you're thinking from that title.
Oh no.
Lost World of Sinbad. I don't remember which one that is.
No, that's
Sinbad movies are all kind of a
But it
blur.
looks cool though. You could look at the ad and you see like the Sinbad guy like tossing somebody,
yeah.
Yeah.
both in color too.
Oh, and here we go. On the left, we've got Blood and Black Lace. This mystery thriller about horrifying crimes in the salons of high fashion has Eva Bartok and Fred Pilero in leading roles. And an
And
Alan.
I didn't even begin to talk about like the damn clothes in the film. Like,
Oh my God. And
and
the
for
music.
somebody who made a film with like next to nothing to, and that's probably because the film was shot in Rome, it would be a crime for everybody to look piss poor.
So it looked like it was pretty much across the board on a double bill with None But the Brave. But over
Blood
here,
and Black Lace um is it on two screens on this night?
well,
Oh,
these
more
are
than
different
two.
theaters. I cut them
Oh,
from
okay.
one page, and it was like a whole bunch of movie theaters in one particular city. I'm trying to see. Oh, Chicago.
Oh, really? Where do you see Chicago? Oh, is this Chicago? That's what I thought. I'm
The
like, I'm looking at
Tribune,
the
yeah.
addresses and I'm like, wait a minute, these these addresses seem very familiar. Harlem and Irving Park and North Avenue. Those are Chicago addresses.
And then we've got another one here, which I like this one with the little
Yeah, that's pretty
skeleton
cool.
hand holding the knife.
Yeah.
Here you go. Let's zoom in a little here.
You
Oh,
know,
no
that's like
one.
my dream, guys. My dream is to open an old-fashioned movie theater where I only have two theaters and I play nothing but horror films 24 hours
Yes.
a day.
I'll be there.
Yeah.
Isn't that a great concept, guys? Thank you. We were
Yes.
having a discussion about that. Like, I feel like people would come, especially if we just say, let's do a subscription. Like for $60 a month, you can come as much as you want to watch as many horror movies as you want if you can stay up.
That would be awesome.
Look, this ad threatens to kidnap the audience.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
No one
Cool.
permitted to leave before the end.
What if you
So
have explosive diarrhea? What do you do then?
Well,
and if the explosive diarrhea is probably from people coming out of the back and scaring the shit out of people.
there is an asterisk and it says except in an emergency. So
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, I didn't see that.
disclaimer.
See it at your own risk. I love
I
stuff.
like that. A
Um,
fashion house of glamorous models.
Here's
Oh,
another
this is from
movie.
Pittsburgh.
Yes, with
The young Dillinger.
Oh, they
Nick
play the
Adams.
Garden Theater on the north side. The Garden Theater was like the last standing porn house in America.
Oh,
And
really?
maybe
Really?
like 10 years ago. Yeah. It
They
was
just closed.
an actual theater with a screen that showed porn.
Now,
Like,
see, I've heard of these legendary places. In
well,
fact,
you
my
could,
dad was telling me, he was like, yeah, growing up, we used to go get that double feature, down on Lake Street. You walk in and you'd see a bunch of men in there with their what are those big coats called?
a raincoat.
Yeah, there we go. Sorry. In there with their big raincoats and cigars and yeah, and it smells awful, as he would say.
Hey, Pee Wee Herman loved those places, so
Oh, that was
He
poor
did.
Pee Wee.
I know.
Oh, he'll never
Now,
live down.
the the marquee of the garden still stands. They kept it it looks almost exactly the same as it always did. But the building was gutted and the rest of it like is now I don't know. They keep threatening to turn it into various things like a restaurant, and which is really kind of gross. Like even if it's not the same structure and the theater's long gone, you're still eating dinner in a place where men sat in raincoats, shall we say. You know. So it was kind of a weird idea, but it's still
Yeah.
there. You can still drive by. It just doesn't say all X-rated all day anymore.
God, and it's so like sometimes I swear to goodness, man, I really feel gypped about a lot of these experiences that just totally were not around because like you see them in like I was watching some movie like last week and it was like one of those classic shots of New York in the 70s and all the hell you saw was XXX
Yeah.
girls like
Mhm.
and with big bright neon lights and I'm like boy New York sure was swinging in the 70s.
We had a place in Boston called the Combat Zone, and that's where all the Pussycat theaters and everything like that were. And
Yeah.
Okay, that's the name that I knew that there was a technical term for these types of theaters and I just didn't know what it was.
yeah. So I need to see more Nick Adams movies because I've seen like what was the ones he was in? Invasion of the Astro Monster and
I
Frankenstein.
know that one.
Frankenstein
I knew that.
meets the space monster, isn't
Yeah, Frankenstein
that?
versus Baragon, but I think that was also Frankenstein Conquers the World, which one of my
Oh,
favorite.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I
It
love
was the
that one.
giant, the kaiju Frankenstein.
Mhm.
Yeah. But it was cool. Nick Adams pops up in these movies every once in a while, and from other countries. You're like, oh my God, he's an American dude. And then we've got another Blood and Black Lace and Young Dillinger pairing here. And then what do we got here? Another one. Just they get smaller.
So, question. Okay. Who did he self-distribute this film, or was this picked up by
No.
someone here in America?
Yeah, this was or you mean Bava
Yeah,
himself? No,
yeah.
he was only a director. He didn't have anything to do with the distribution. I mean, he got paid for making these movies by somebody, and then from there, somebody else put it out. There was a producer he worked with, Alfredo Leone,
Mhm.
and he distributed a lot of Mario Bava's films, including Baron Blood. which he sold to American International Pictures, I believe. I know AIP put it out in the States,
Yeah.
but it made a whole bunch of money here. It was one of Mario Bava's biggest hits, Baron Blood, and he worked with Alfredo Leone a couple of times. So I don't know. I guess maybe Leone was a distributor on some level, but he Blood and Black Lace was picked up by somebody else and distributed.
Yeah. I have it written down, but it's in my notes. I'll jump to that after this. Here's another one. This time they've swapped sides. I think, hold on, I want to go back for a second here. Yeah, the blood and black lace is very different on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. It's like that would terrify me as a kid. If I saw that when I was a kid, I would have been
It
afraid to
was
see this movie.
scary,
Oh,
yeah.
so many screams. Marianne Mobley on the other screen. Look at that. Marianne Mobley and young Dillinger.
Oh, right, right, right. I mean, look at that cast though. Victor Buono, Robert Conrad
Yeah, I was looking at that.
from the Zimbalist company, like Ephraim Zimbalist Jr., I would imagine. Don Zimbalist. That's cool. Alfred Zimbalist. I guess the Zimbalists were a whole Hollywood family, huh? And I believe that is all that I have for that. So let me jump over to my notes here. Blood and Black Lace. Let's see. What did I say about there? It was the okay, yeah, and here we go. It was released in the US under the title Blood and Black Lace on July 7th, 1965 by the Woolner Brothers, who had previously distributed Bava's Hercules and the Haunted World as part of a deal with Allied Artists.
God, he did Hercules too? I have to check that out.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's a good one, actually.
Wow.
Just
Uh,
one Hercules film, I think, was Baba, but it's
yeah,
beautiful. Hercules in the
To
Haunted
look at
World.
that. Yeah.
yeah. And it
What
says
year was that
that
Hercules
was
one?
oh,
Does it say?
Hercules?
That was like 65, I think.
Yeah. Where we go? Mario Bob. He did Kill Baby Kill in '66. Oh, and he did Planet of the Vampires, one of my favorites. I love that movie.
Yeah. One of the
Um,
many inspirations for Alien, and
yep.
also just a really visually stunning film that was probably a lot less expensive than it looks, thanks to
Yeah.
Mario Bava.
In '63, did The Evil Eye, which I wrote a blog about. That stars John Saxon. That's an awesome movie.
Hmm.
And '61 was Hercules in the Haunted World.
61. Okay.
And then,
Sure.
of course, he did Black Sunday before that, 1960, with Barbara Steele. That's a classic. Cal Tiki, the Immortal Monster. That's like isn't that the one about the killer plant or the killer tree?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Killer Tree.
Yeah. The Day the Sky Exploded. Wow, geez, I forgot how many good ones he did. Um, yeah, so that's really, really cool. Bava's, got he had some great skills when it came to directing. He knew what he was doing. Let's see. In contrast to the often drastic alterations made to Bava's earlier films by AIP and other distributors, the U.S. version is largely identical to its Italian counterpart, featuring only hello, featuring only two very minor cuts and dialogue exchanges. But I thought this was the one. Oh, in England, they cut 4 minutes out so they could give it an X rating over there. I think that was before the 18 ratings that they had. So, all right. So, final thoughts on Blood and Black Lace. Dantes, why don't you go?
I think if you guys want to see a good film that is a combination of hardcore horror and mild pornographic, like it's very hard for films like this to be done and to be done tasteful. I keep thinking of that awful film Caligula. Do you guys remember that?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was so fucking awful. And I entertained it. But I almost wish that there were more films like this today that could find like that happy balance and medium between like gore and like pornography. Because blood and pornography, I hate to say it, they actually go hand in hand. They do because when you start talking about like snuff films and stuff, stuff like that, like people, you know, serial killers are not all of them, but some of them are borderline, driven by their need to be satisfied sexually. And this film, I feel like, is the beginning of a chain of like where we can see people like the Scream guy run around and chop up pretty girls. Like this film is the beginning of that, and Scream would be a mild imitation of that. So if you guys want to see something where you're going to be satisfied, and I mean satisfied in completion, that sounds so sexual, but watch this film because I got everything that I needed. I got the hot girls, I got a little death. It was good for me. I don't know about you guys, but it was a good date.
Excellent. Excellent. Bill.
I hope nobody ever forgets Mario Bava. I hope that his work keeps finding younger and younger audiences so that his legacy will survive. Because as long as people can appreciate the Bava's best moments for what they are, then that's enthusiasm for film in general. And Blood and Black Lace, it's definitely one of his finest. I don't know if it's never the one that I always go back to. In fact, I revisited it again in preparation for the show, and just because it had been a while since I watched it. And I'm always blown away by how visually stunning his work is, especially Blood and Black Lace. I think it works pretty well as a story too. I mean, movies aren't only visual, but the story in Blood and Black Lace is kind of like kitschy now. Like it's a scandalous diary, and she had an abortion, and blah blah blah. So you know that's the kind of stuff that really would people would not blink an eye at today. It would just be sort of some a
Right.
footnote in this story.
Right.
But I hope that his work keeps finding younger and younger audiences. If you haven't seen Blood and Black Lace, what are you waiting for?
Exactly, exactly. I have to admit that, and you guys are probably gonna have to help me out if I make a mistake in tonight's show, but I sometimes I just jam these or cram these movies together in my head, and I have to really make an effort to separate them out because there are a lot of similarities in them. But like you said, the Bava's visuals really kind of make it stand out from the others.
Definitely.
I had definitely seen this quite a while ago, and I'd forgotten a lot of it. So the rewatch this time, I was glad to see it again. I was glad that it held up, and it's so awesome. I highly recommend it. For me, this is sort of the beginning of the Giallo craze, which it may not be necessarily be the first Giallo, but it puts all those pieces together with the black gloves, and even goes so far as to show the guy's face, except he's got a mask. The killer's face, except they have a mask. It's truly thrilling. It's an edge of your seat shocker, so I highly recommend people should check it out.
And
All
I
right.
also, sorry,
Oh, all right.
and I
No, go
also
ahead.
think you should check it out again. Like there's a couple of like iconic scenes in that film, and for me, it would be that antique shop pursuit.
Yeah.
Because, like just like that, the way that they were able to sort of um, create the atmosphere of like being contained. Like I felt like I was being hunted. Like it was just very good. Like that's a very iconic scene. And again, with the mannequin scene, like if you guys really love horror, like you guys should be knowing. Like I almost feel embarrassed that I have not seen these films until just a couple of days ago. So please check
Th-
it out.
There's so much out there. It's unbelievable. And I do find that every so often I have a hard time understanding, like following these movies. But when you watch them over and over again, after a while, it all kind of, starts to make sense. If you have trouble the first time through, totally getting the whole story. So next up, we've got The Bird with the Crystal Plumage from 1970. The synopsis is, in Italy, American writer Sam Dalmas witnesses a murder attempt on an art gallery owner, I'm sorry, on art gallery owner Monica Rainieri a few days before he's supposed to return home. Inspector Morosini, who's in charge of investigating the three previous murders of the serial killer, recruits Dalmas for help by taking his passport so he can't leave Italy. Dalmas decides to stay with his girlfriend Julia to help the police in the investigation. The killer threatens Dalmas and Julia by her phone, and the police overhear a strange noise on the tape. Soon, the serial killer stalks Julia and Dalmas, and who might the killer be? So, first impressions, Dantes, you go this time.
First impressions. All of these films are beautiful. Once again, even though I'm sure it wasn't like an intentional focal point of the film. I enjoyed the chase with the yellow jacket. It almost again like with these references to like newer films. I think it was the film called Run Lola Run. I think that was one of those films where the girl was like running through one of those European like cities, and I think someone was chasing her or something like that. It was the movie's been out for a while,
Yeah.
but I did like that chase, like with the yellow jacket. That was one of like the major standouts. That's all I'll say before we jump in.
Sure. Bill.
Um, this movie is one of Dario Argento's biggest hits in America, at least. I think this might be his biggest hit because it was a #1 film at the box office. So it's a very strong entry in the Giallo genre. It's not my favorite Argento Giallo, even though it's of course visually stunning, absolutely bizarre in its presentation of the material, which is what we expect from Dario Argento. Um, to me, it's I think the first time I saw it was again on Anchor Bay home VHS.
Mhm.
I think I started to collect those cassettes that Roger Rigor had there in the clamshell case, and there was one of those for Bird, one for Cat o' Nine Tails, and Four Flies on Gray Velvet. It's sort
Yeah.
of like an unofficial animal trilogy
Yeah.
from Dario Argento. Not really animals all the time, but
Right.
it's a loose trilogy that mostly concocted by fans. Uh,
Right.
but Bird is the first one in that trilogy, and it's just an overall stellar film. Hard to
Mhm.
say anything bad about it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I first saw this only a couple of years ago. I even reviewed it. If you guys watching want to go to my website, havenpodcasts.com. It's under my 1970s horror films blog, and I love it. It holds up great as a thriller. The ending, at least the first time through, you do not see that coming. At least I didn't when I first watched it. And yeah, visually it's just a beautiful film to watch through the beginning. And the acting is great too, you know. Like you said, Argento directed it. We've got Tony Musante as Sam Dalmas, Susie Kendall as Julia. She shows up later in Torso. We'll talk about that. Um,
Susie Kendall.
Reggie Nalder, who played Needles the assassin, he was in Mark of the Devil from 1970, which of course it's on my wall, but I have one of the vomit bags that they
Can we see? Can we see?
it would involve
Sure.
I'll have to take a picture of it and
Oh,
show it. It's
Reggie Nalder was Barlow in Salem's Lot too. The original
that's
TV.
get
right.
out!
That
That's
was
right.
Reggie Nalder.
Get out!
Not
No
about that.
way! I'm
Underneath
gonna
all
have to
that
go and
shit on
look
his
now.
face.
Okay, okay, yeah, okay.
You know, it's funny when I watch this, the only person I can think of is he looks like Robert Donner, who played Exidor in Mork and Mindy, who was Mork's
I
kind
can
of
look at this.
crazy friend there.
I don't know.
He looks just like him. And you know, to top it off, this movie has an Ennio Morricone soundtrack. So, and I just
Yeah.
love the whole opening where Tony Musanti's character sees the woman being attacked, or he thinks he sees her being attacked, and he goes to help her and he can't get in, and then behind him the door shuts, which is weird. They don't really explain that. It's kind of a loose
It's
end.
kind
Why
of
did
weird,
the
right?
door shut and lock on him? Why is that set up like that?
And then he has to be forced to watch it and not do anything.
Yeah.
It was in
But
the script.
I think the point behind that though was social commentary because in the 60s we were starting to get like really self-involved and self-absorbed with all of our fucking gadgets and shit with our cameras and all of that shit. So now for me, like when I watch it, I'm like, oh shit, that's that poor soul who was on the train last week who, was getting beat up, and no one did anything because they just sat there and sort of watched. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
So I think that was sort of like, I could be wrong, but I feel like that was like the idea behind it. Like, like we sort of get desensitized to stuff. Like we want to help, we're close enough to help, but we can't help because there's this border that we put up between us and it. I don't know. I'm not the psych guy here. I don't know.
I think in the last movie, Dantes, you mentioned a parallel to Psycho, and I believe this is the one that sort of is this the one where at the end they describe why the killer did what they did, and it was sort of like the end of Psycho, where they
Yeah,
explain why Norman Bates was the way he was.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
The story also, you mentioned the evil eye earlier, Reed,
yes,
which was I think a Giallo. I think that actually came before Blood and Black Lace. I can't remember.
yeah, it was
Uh,
63.
okay, and Blood and Black Lace was 61.
No, Blood and Black Lace was 64, I believe. Let me.
Okay, so Evil Eye came first.
Yeah,
So that was Giallo too. But the story is kind of similar, even though Dario Argento wrote the movie. It seems to have been inspired by the Evil Eye, at least the twist in the movie where the witness to the murder saw something that he didn't understand at the time that he saw it, what he was seeing, and it turned out to be like that the victim was really the perpetrator.
yeah, that was just so cool. I love that. All right, so let's do some do some newspaper ads here for
Ooh,
but I just love the whole twist to it too. Um, make sure I can shut some of these off. Well, as to who the killer was. And we'll get into that in more detail. All right, I am going to share because
Share win.
sharing Boyd with the crystal
Share
plumage.
win.
The plumage don't enter into it. All right. And here, of course, I can't see because there's like menu crap at the top.
Shakarama.
There we go.
well, this
Those
is
are
Oh, yes.
great.
Point of Terror and Blood Mania.
Oh my God, I love those fonts. Look at that Point of Terror font.
I like
Wow.
these movies. These are two faves. They have nothing to do with Bird, though.
Yeah. Well, Point of Terror was what Bird was released under in certain markets.
No, this is a different Point of Terror.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, this is not Bird. This is a movie that's starring Peter Carpenter. It was like a vanity project for Peter Carpenter, who also stars in Blood Mania. Both those
Hmm.
movies were like, Peter Carpenter's attempt to launch himself as a film star.
Oh, okay. All right. Bear with me, folks. I'm going to stop this share for a second because I'm going to open this with a different program so I can zoom in on it. Open with. Oh, there we go. See, now I can do that. Oh, all right. So that's my bad. I didn't know that. This looks cool, though. I want to see this.
Oh, highly recommended. Blood Mania is one of my favorite movies where nothing happens. It's just a total vibe. And there is a story. It's very soap opera-esque, Rigor. I think you're gonna love it.
Oh, cool. I'll have to check that out.
I don't know if you'll like it, Dantes. I think you'll think it's really boring, but that's just
Very soap opera-esque, and I don't know. I could deal with some soap opera-esque every now and then.
the Blood
Depends.
Mania. Blood Mania was the movie that taught me that straight people use poppers too.
Good Lord. Okay, and we'll go to the next one here. Shanghai Killers and Mark of the Devil. Oops, what's going on there? Sorry about that. Then you've got Dillinger. I think wasn't that Warren Oates that played Dillinger?
Yeah,
Yeah. Fearless Fighters, also Point of Terror. So now I don't know. Now I'm not sure. This is 1973. I believe the last one was 72.
you're thinking of Phantom of Terror, Rigor, which was the reissue of Bird with the Crystal Plumage.
Okay.
Because I
Yeah.
posted an ad for it and you said we should talk about this on the show. Is
That's what I was saying. So I looked up the wrong one, I guess.
yeah, Phantom of Terror was it was this movie was originally released in 1970. That was when it was in theaters first and it was a big hit and everything. And then a decade later, another film distributor called 21st Century Films picked it up and they put it out as The Phantom of Terror. They reissued it.
Hmm.
Hold on. No, but it was also released as Point of Terror in the US, at least according to IMDb. It says that was the alternative title, and then it says Phantom of Terror was the reissue title.
Oh, I've never known it as Point of Terror. I've never found any ads for it because it's always the Peter Carpenter Point of Terror
Right, right.
came out.
We'll have to invent a time machine so we can go back and find out. All right, so then we've got the next one is Point of Terror again with Blood Mania. So I guess I was wrong. That is not the movie. Couple more. Fearless Fighters. And then here we go. Bird with the Crystal Plumage. Years have fled since we've had a chilling mystery, but here's one at last to squeeze the mind. Gene Shalit, what are you thinking?
We
Years
can't
have
see it.
Yeah,
fled? Oh,
you
you
have to
can't.
hear.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Pardon my sarong. Here we go.
I mean, I'd rather look at us too, but
All right, there we go. How's that?
Much better.
yeah, there it is.
You didn't miss anything because the other ones were all Point of Terror ones. I couldn't find anything under Phantom of Terror, at least in my cursory search. I didn't have a lot of time to do it.
Gosh, look at those ticket prices. Hmm.
Oh, it's crazy.
Wow.
It's outrageous how they charge so much. I mean,
Wow.
$1.75. It's
Wow.
getting so high.
oh my God. I think I've told the story on this show before. I remember when the movies went from 450 to 475 and I had exact change and I couldn't get into the movie I wanted to see. I was pissed.
Oh,
Oh, wow.
that's cruel.
That's
Yeah.
very cool.
All right, here's the next one. This is a cool one. Oh, so it was on a double bill with The Night Visitor.
Also an amazing
That
film.
looks cool. That would scare the hell out of me if I was a kid, if I saw that guy down there with the axe. He's pretty creepy looking.
That's
That's
awesome.
Max von Sydow that's in that movie. And it's about a guy who's in an institution and there's some question about whether he's escaping the institution to commit murders.
Oh
And
wow.
when we see the actuality of what's happening, it's pretty mind-blowing. It's a great moment.
Wow.
Definitely in the Hitchcock tradition. I love that.
I just want to see what's on this glove.
Yeah, we can't see it.
If you think you're being followed home from this movie, keep telling yourself that's all in your
It's all
mind.
in your mind.
Oh my God. They were going to give someone a heart attack with that.
It's only a movie. It's only a
Mhm.
fanzine.
Especially like that would be creepy because most people would go see this at like 10 o'clock at night. So if you see that on the ad, you'd be very, very scared.
So we've got a couple of comments here on Facebook. Frank Palvino wrote spaghetti westerns are minimal dialogue, maximum visual, which is very true.
It's true.
And there is a spaghetti western connection in one of these movies, and I'll get to it when I find it in my notes. Matt wrote, "Run Lola Run" is about a woman trying to save her boyfriend through multiple timelines in, I think, Berlin. I remember the
Yeah.
trailer for it, but I've never
Yeah,
actually.
I just remember seeing that gal run with that damn coat.
Yeah. He said it's a fabulous movie, and and he also said Bill's shirt is rocking out. What's Bill would? Oh, there you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much.
that's cool. All right, what do we got next here? Oh, we've got another one there.
Motorcycle, there are scenes with that kind of impact. Boy, they really sold it in these ads.
I was just gonna say, here's a cool one. Burt Lancaster and Valdez is coming, The Night Visitor and the Bird with the Crystal Plumage. Which I loved the whole thing about the bird. Like when you see the title, you go, "What the hell does that even mean?" And then in the movie, it makes total sense,
Makes
and
perfect
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
it was
April
brilliant.
18th, 1971.
Yeah. We've got Trog and Taste
Joni,
of Dracula. Yes.
Trog, no.
Look, they even have something for the kiddies, guys. Let's take the kids to go see The Wizard of Oz this Saturday and Sunday, and we'll sneak out to go watch this.
Yeah. Bird with the crystal
I
plumage.
want to see the Wizard of Oz, no matter
Yeah.
what.
I'm
Okay.
so Wizard of Oz out. I can't see it anymore, ever in history.
That's funny. I try to minimize my viewing so when I watch it, it's still special.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it, Rigor.
Here's another one that's really good.
That's
They're
cool.
trying to cash in on Psycho. They've got the phrase over the glove again. Shock makes for goosebump tension. Shock makes for goosebump tension. Spine-tingling suspense that made Hitchcock a household word. They're really they're
God, they were like so close to getting sued, right?
yeah,
People said that about Hitchcock. Hitchcock was always the yardstick by which these movies measured themselves. And
yeah.
there was one that came, I think Mephisto Waltz
Yeah.
had in the tagline, really, Mr. Hitchcock, have you ever made a movie as thrilling as the Mephisto Waltz? It
Oh
was
wow. I
Wow.
love that though, because it's like it's creating competition, which breeds better film. I love it.
it's like trash talking right there in the
I
tagline.
love it.
Boy, it sounds like they're throwing down the gloves with that one.
I mean, that
Oops,
was
did I
good
go back to
though.
my? Hold on, I think I
One
saw.
dollar at all times. Oh my God. Did you see
Don't
that?
drink the water.
$1 at all times except Saturday, $1.50. Man, I swear to goodness, I would never have left the movies.
To mortgage a house back then to go to see the movie.
Wow. Was that a lot of money back then?
Oh yeah, dollar 50 was. I mean, you were still buying things in pennies,
Okay, yeah, I guess
penny
you're right.
Yeah.
candy and all that stuff,
Yeah,
and the five and dime store.
I'll
yeah.
read the fine print though. On Saturday, it's $1.50.
Yeah, yeah, but
So it goes
that
up.
it said that.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Hmm?
Don't drink the water, South Bay. It's a
That's
documentary. Never mind. All right, so then here we go. These are another one I pulled a bunch off of the same page and just kind of put them together.
Oh my God, the Kristen Jorgensen
Dean
story.
Jorgensen's story. Oh my
Wow.
God.
God, is this that old?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I was
There's
just
War of the Gargantuas. We were talking about that.
Yep. Where was
Nick
that?
Adams. Oh, it's the
see.
Halloween horror matinee.
Oh yeah, right there. Monster Zero.
Monster
Yes,
Nick
yeah.
Adams
Zero.
was in that too. Battle Beneath the Earth. Yeah, a bunch of cool little ones here. And
There's some Russ Meyer at the GG down there, GG Theaters in the left corner.
oh
Finders,
yeah.
Lovers,
Yeah, I
Weepers,
see
and
it. Yeah.
Vixen.
Yep. That's cool. Take the money and run. Is that Woody Allen? It looks like Woody Allen there.
That is Woody Allen.
Yeah.
God, he's looked terrible since the dawn of time.
Look, it's with Whatever Happened to Aunt Alice, Bird with the Crystal Plumage, and Whatever Happened to Aunt Alice, featuring a tour de force performance by Geraldine Page.
Where do you see that one?
The left-hand side.
Oh, up here? Yeah. Okay.
There you go.
With whatever happened at Alice. That's different than whoever slew Auntie Roo, right?
It sure is.
Yeah. And then this one's with playing with stiletto, I think. Is that right?
Stiletto, yeah.
Yeah. Just the copy's not that good.
Where do you see that at?
At the Nassau.
Right here.
Oh, okay, I see.
And then shock. Goosebump tension. Oh yeah. All right. And then we'll go to the next one. Oops. All right. The SAC theaters. We used to have the SAC chain around here. Sneak preview tonight, 8:30. A great new Italian Western starring Ernest Borgnine, plus the bird with the crystal plumage.
Last 2 weeks.
Speaking
Honey,
of
we gotta go
spaghetti
see the
westerns,
Borgnine movie. What's his name with Mermaid Man from SpongeBob?
Oh God, I can't think of anything. Sorry. That's bad. And we watched SpongeBob too.
Oh yeah. We're watching iCarly right now because my grandson, of course, has never seen that show, and I just love it. So this one here from what year? It's also from 1970. Oops. It's playing with Pretty Poison, which is not what I thought it was because I thought that wasn't that a Drew Barrymore film? Kept
Hmm.
it in the underwater city. Wasn't Pretty Poison the name of a Drew Barrymore film?
I don't know. I
Not
mean, you
sure.
got me stumped.
Definitely in the Hitchcock tradition.
That
Back when,
Borgnine film was probably Bullet for Sandoval.
oh, okay. And that was a spaghetti western, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm gonna have to cover that on East Meets the West. Here's another one that's a cool one. I like that with the
That's
hand.
cool.
Yeah.
there's that Black Glove.
There
Yeah.
it is.
Which in the movie is this is the one where the guy had the thing with the hooks on it, but there was like three of them and they were sort of facing each other, right?
I
Kind of.
think
That was Blood and Black Lace.
Oh, Blood and Black Lace, that's right. See, I told you I'm getting these confused. The Boston Strangler with Tony Curtis.
ooh, I like me some Tony Curtis.
My grandmother said that she swore around the time when the Boston Strangler was at large, she swore that he walked through her house because the house I grew up in was a large multi-family house and she owned it and she was on the first floor on
Hmm.
one side of the first floor and then there was another apartment on the other side and then I grew up on the second floor in the attic. And she said that around the time, the height of the Boston Strangler, guy came to the back door, knocked on it. She opened it up. He just walked in. He didn't really say anything to her. He looked around, cased the joint, and he walked out the front door.
I believe it.
Yeah, she told my father, and he
I
called the
believe it.
cops.
My adopted father told me that Jeff Dahmer tried to pick him up.
Oh my God,
Isn't that fucking up? That's like really
that's
fucked up. I was like,
crazy.
thank God you didn't drink the Kool-Aid, homie.
Yeah, that could have turned out pretty bad.
Very
Wow.
bad for all of us because he would have been dead and I would not have had a place to stay.
Yeah. So that's all I got for those. Stop the share. And then I believe that stopped, right? Pretty
Yeah.
Poison was Tuesday Weld. Okay, Matt wrote that in. Um, he also says I have a gub. I don't know what that means. What's a gub?
Yep.
I don't know. I thought it was a reference to something we said, and I don't remember what it was.
Hmm.
Um, all right. So yeah, so this movie, I mean, do we want to give away the twist? It's basically Tony Musanti's character sees what he thinks is a killer trying to attack the woman, but it turned out she was attacking him because she was killing people and he was trying to stop her, right?
Basically, yeah.
It was her husband and he was covering up for her.
But you
But
didn't hear that from us.
no. Hey, these movies are 60 years old, so all right, so
And they've
final
aged very well too.
yes. Yeah. Final thought.
Argento's films always looked a little futuristic too, just because of the way the sets, even Bava, a lot of the stuff that he did, even though it looks dated, Blood and Black Lace looks dated now, but Dario Argento's films, you can tell they were made in the 70s, but there's also something futuristic about them.
Yes. Yeah. Even what's the one with the apartment building that's like a small city and the people go sex crazy.
Oh, that's Cronenberg.
Oh, Cronenberg, right,
Shivers.
right,
What kind of
right.
movie is that?
Oh, I love that movie. That's They Came From Within, aka Shivers, aka
Shivers,
The
that's right.
Parasite Murders.
Yeah. That's a yeah, we covered that a few
I
episodes ago.
wasn't on that show, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird slug that gets inside your
Why
throat.
does
A
this sound
parasite.
familiar? Did someone modern try and make like a fucked up copycat film of this?
You're thinking of Slither. Yeah.
Yes.
It was
Oh,
not like Slither, but Slither took it to horrifying extents.
Oh
yeah,
my
we
God.
because we covered that one too, right? With Nathan Fillion.
I think we talked about that on the
Yeah,
same show. Yeah.
yeah. So all right, so final thoughts on the bird with the crystal plumage. Bill, why don't you go?
Again, one of Argento's finest moments, not my favorite, but I don't know why. I think other movies like Deep Red is will forever be huge to me. It probably just has to do with because that's one of the first ones of his that I saw. If I'd seen Bird first, maybe that one would be my favorite. Definitely not. I wouldn't say anything bad about it. He has made some shitty films. Bird with the Crystal Plumage is not one of them.
Awesome, awesome, Dantes.
I am a fan of any movie that you can't determine who the killer is immediately. And that's what I like about a lot of these films is that it sort of just like subverts like the expectation. Maybe that's because I'm so used to watching like, all of these, modern horror films where there's always like the final girl and she's the last, but I just enjoy like where the woman is actually, like the killer. Like there's something like refreshing, about that. And I wasn't expecting that. So I would totally give this, eh, I'd give it a solid 9.
Nice, nice.
It's a
Yeah,
good film.
I love the twist in this. I love because you just don't expect it. And what I really liked about it is that Tony Musanti's character, he keeps going over it in his mind, and the police detective keeps forcing him almost at certain times to think about it again, and you maybe miss something. And he knew there was something not right, but he just couldn't put his finger on it until the very end. And then he was like, "Oh, duh," you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a recurring theme in Gialli and also Dario Argento's films in general. Deep Red has a moment like that. Something
Yep,
that was seen and not interpreted correctly becomes like the revealing clue at the end of the film. That even happened in Suspiria, which is not a Giallo,
right,
but she kind of remembers at the end what that voice was screaming on the call box about the three irises turn the blue one. So
right.
I don't that has never happened to me personally. If I forget something, it's lost forever.
Yeah. It's not just that walking into a room and you forgot something.
No, that's just the way I am.
Yeah, I can see that. Um, so sorry, I was just looking for something here, but yeah, this is a favorite of mine. Like I said, I reviewed it on my one of my blogs. I think you just mentioned it, Bill, too. It definitely has a deep red kind of vibe to it. I love the cast. I thought Tony Masante did a great job. Because you get caught up in him as he's trying to solve these murders. You're sort of going on the journey with him to try to figure things out. And then it's like it's just that what is and they show it. They show the clip when he's thinking about it. And I was sitting there going, what can I glean from this? What is different there? Or what are we not seeing? And that I thought that was really good. And I personally, I think this movie is a good starting point for folks. If you're watching this, you've never seen a Giallo film, definitely start with this one, because I think it's just again, it's another one that hits all the boxes, and the story's not overly complicated, which is good. And there's an explanation as to what a bird with crystal plumage is. So, guys, if it's okay, let's take a 5 or 10 minute break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about "Don't Torture a Duckling" from '72 and
I
"Torso."
really thought that was kind of twisted there, but
Don't torture a duckling.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll get into that. So, all right, so let's do this. We'll take a break, and then we'll be back in about 5 or 10 minutes.
Okie doke.
Okay, folks, I'm back, and while we wait for the others to come back from the break, I just wanted to remind you to visit havenpodcasts.com. And also, if you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe and hit the little bell so you get all the notifications when we have videos come out. And if you're on Facebook, also, if you could like our Facebook page and share it with your friends as well, that'd be great. We want to keep trying to grow the audience. So, anyways, I see the guys are back. Welcome back. And our next film is Don't Torture a Duckling from 1972, which is a horrible title. I mean,
It
you
really
mention
is.
it to someone and they're like, do I want to watch that? I don't know. So the synopsis is in the backward village of Accendura, the boy Bruno Locasio goes missing and the police inspector, the local commissioner, and the village captain Modesti investigate the case. When his father receives a request for a ransom, the police arrest the local Giuseppe and realize that he's innocent. Then the boys, Michelle and Tonino, are also murdered, and the police suspect the local witch Machiara, who practices black magic. She might be the killer. But they find she's also innocent. However, the superstitious and ignorant locals brutally kill her. Meanwhile, the village is crowded with journalists, including the experienced Andrea Martelli, played by Thomas Milian, from Rome. He befriends Patrizzi, the daughter of a wealthy entrepreneur living in the village after a drug scandal. They meet the village priest, Don Alberto Avalloni, who has a group of boys that play soccer at the church. He's the son of the weird Donna Aurelia Avalloni, who raises her slow 6-year-old daughter. They believe the child has witnessed murders and might know who the killer is. So, Bill, did we cover this one before?
No, we definitely didn't talk about Don't Torture a Duckling. We may have mentioned it in passing, but it was never a subject.
Oh, okay. So, what was your first impression? When did you first see this?
I don't remember it. Honestly, like this one, it's never been one of my favorite Fulci films or Fulci Giallo. Giallo, Giallos. So I don't know. It's good. It's just kind of like it grates on my nerves, like the weird music, the singing, like there's like these Italian pop songs in it that is just really grate on my nerves after a while.
Oh my
And
God.
it's very reminiscent, a couple moments in it, especially the one where a person falls off of a cliff and on the way down you can see it like mutilating their face. He used that same thing again in a movie I like a lot better from 1979 called The Psychic.
Oh, right.
Jennifer O'Neill. I think the original Italian title was The Seven Notes in Black or something like that.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Dantes.
First time seeing it was Thursday. Um, this film was, yeah, it was a mind fuck, certainly. Um, there was something almost like it almost felt taboo a little bit like watching it because there's so much like perverse sexuality, exchange between I think it's Patrizia or whatever, where she's like teasing the boys and all
Yeah,
of, and it also made me think of like that music video from Madonna. I think it's Open Your Heart to Me. Remember that scene where she's giving the little boy the peep show or whatever. And it's just it is almost taboo because you're forcing the innocence out of a child, and you're forcing the innocence out of a child already who is going through extremely, weird circumstances as it is already. Um, yeah, I enjoyed it though. It wasn't a bad film, but I wasn't expecting that. There were a lot of changes between, this film and the other one. I honestly appreciated that it was in a rural village as opposed to, running around, like the city. And that sort of gave credibility to a lot of the superstitious lore, like with the witch and all of that. So I enjoyed that. The only thing that I like that honestly made me uncomfortable was just like the overt sexuality towards the kids. Other than that, though, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw this probably a year or two ago, and this is another one of those movies that's kind of confusing, but I've seen it a few times since then, and it's really it makes more sense each time you watch them.
And then like there was the scene where the witch was getting like beat to death with like the chains.
Oh,
Like
that was horrible.
wasn't that like, but again, there if there's a playbook to how to do them, this is certainly the way to do both horror and overt sexuality at the same time. This was definitely.
Yeah,
But when you're bringing in though that element of like the occult, you expect the sexual element, but you expect it with other adults. You just don't expect to see it with a kid. So
It was a little disturbing
yeah,
because she definitely did some things that she could have gone to jail for if,
right.
if it had been done in modern times.
Yeah,
Although there's something to be said about that. Like it's almost not considered a threat if a woman comes on to an underage boy, or at least that's the impression, the societal impression is like,
mhm,
there was a a mindset that it's not a big deal if an older woman seduces an underage boy, but like if a man would seduce an underage girl, then that's a huge problem.
right.
And this movie sort of alludes to the fact that it's not presented as something positive that happens for the boy. So I thought at least the movie was honest like that. Like it didn't seem to share that perspective that that a woman can't harm a young boy by making sexual overtures towards him.
Right.
And it was all part of like the weird fucked up shit that was going on in this village. So I thought that was at least somewhat redeeming
Yeah.
to the way it was presented.
Yeah, I mean, it was tense and thrilling, and I love the twist too at the end. It's another one. They all seem to have a really good twist.
Of course.
So, of course, yeah, speaking of course, Lucio Fulci directed Zombie, The Beyond, one of my favorites, and City of the Living Dead, which is a great movie. He
Hmm.
also co-wrote it. I didn't know a huge amount about the cast except for Thomas Milian, who to me, he looks different in every role he plays. I think he gets so into the character that he just like his
yeah.
features change almost. But I know him from spaghetti westerns from doing the East Meets the West, and he's been in quite a few that we've done. He looks different each time if you forget that it's him.
The
Uh,
death of the witch is very much like the death of the warlock at the beginning of the Beyond, because a bunch
yes,
of like provincial villagers drag away this figure that is considered to be evil, and then they beat him to death with chains and like that,
Yeah.
like rip the flesh off of him exactly the way this witch dies. And her death is somewhat more degrading because she ends up dying by the highway.
right.
She's like dragging herself out to the highway, and all these people are just driving right by her. Like either they didn't see her or they didn't want to stop and help her.
Yeah,
She was done for though. Nothing they could have done would have saved her.
I know, but it was just I was saying the same thing. I said to my wife, I'm like, what the fuck? You pull over. You
Like,
see the
right?
poor lady. Oh my God. There was a shot, and I'm trying to remember, I think it was early on in the film where it was the killer, because these movies, a lot of times the camera's from the killer's point of view. And we saw the hands, and they had, instead of gloves, they were covered in mud. And I think they did that like once or
On
twice,
purpose. Yeah.
I thought that was kind of cool.
I thought it was clever.
But that scene where I guess I probably shouldn't have ruined the last film, so I apologize to people watching. But we have traditionally done spoilers on this film. But there's a character that Bill you mentioned earlier goes off the cliff, and he hits every rock on the way down.
And sparks fly every time he hits the rocks too.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
That was
remember.
really strange. I was not expecting the flint effect.
that's so funny. I could not find any movie ads for this movie.
Really? So bizarre.
Let me see when it came
I don't
out.
think it I don't think it was released in the States.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Release date. Do do do. Uh,
Just by chance, What was the original film's rating on this? Did we even have a rating strong enough for this film?
This would have been right around the time that the rating system as we knew it. This was 72, I think, and that's
Mhm.
probably when it came out in Italy. I don't think this was released in the United States.
No, it wasn't.
It definitely would have
Maybe
gotten an
because it was
R.
just, I don't know, maybe because no one in America probably they probably were scared to touch it, I would think. Even for that time, this would have been like very I'll use the word avant-garde in terms of what film studios were comfortable with. This would have
Yeah.
definitely been like, oh my God, are you sure we want to do this? But I could totally have seen like United Artists like distributing like this type of film easily.
Well, it's not very audience friendly because, and I noticed this when I rewatched it for the program tonight, is that it sort of like has a first half where nothing really happens. Not all that much happens in the first 45 minutes. And then halfway through, all of a sudden, we get the movie that we expected from the beginning. Like that's when the investigation starts, and that's when they start, trying
Yeah.
to piece together what's actually happening. Because again, the police cannot do anything in Giallo films. They don't know the first thing about being a detective. So
Right.
it's up to our non-professional leads to become detectives. And yeah, that doesn't happen until halfway through Don't Torture a Duckling.
Right.
It's kind of strangely paced. I mean,
It is.
whether it's a problem or not, that could have been a reason that a distributor didn't want to market it in the States.
That hasn't stopped some though who just like would re-edit a film. Just
Cut it all out. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what they did to They're Coming to Get You. You showed that
yeah,
for one of the last galleries. The movie it's actually All the Colors of the Dark,
right.
and with starring Edwidge Fenech. And they cut the last 20 minutes out of the movie, including the ending. It just kind of stops. They're Coming to Get You, the US cut. There's like she's having like these phantasmagorical hallucinations or dreams, and you're never sure if they're real or not. And They're Coming to Get You just stops at the end of one of those dreams. And that's the end of the movie. And of
Yeah,
course, nothing is resolved. So that's really kind of strange. They could have done that with this, though. They could have just cut out the first 45 minutes.
right.
Here we are in the middle of an investigation already.
I just wanted to take a moment. We have some comments here. Matt, who had said I have a gub, and now I get his reference. It was a reference to the movie, the Woody Allen film, Take the Money and Run, which is sort
Yeah.
of like
Oh,
this bogus documentary about a inept bank robber, and he goes, he writes a letter to the teller and says, I have a gub." Which he meant gun. That's a great one. Yeah, don't worry about being quippy. We always quoting stuff here. Um,
yeah.
and then Frank said the priest surfing down the mountain is so memorable. Chin sparks.
Again, that same thing happens in
So
the psychic.
unexpected.
And you'll jump out of your seat the same way you did for this movie when it happens in the psychic. Fulci was never one like the chain strikes that we were talking about, like with
Yeah,
the ripped flesh gushing blood after getting hit with a chain. Like once he found something that he liked, he stuck with it.
yeah,
The desecration of eyeballs, like
yes.
eyeballs were always pierced and preferably ripped right out of your body, but piercing is acceptable too for Fulci.
So yes, this was released in Italy in 72, Argentina in 73. It made its way around most of Europe, and then didn't get to the US till 2000, where it had a video premiere.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, there was something else I wanted to say about this movie. Um, Hold on. Yeah, this was an Anchor Bay one. You probably got this one. It was part of the Lucio Fulci collection.
Hmm.
Bill.
I don't think I bought this one.
No. Shameless Screen Entertainment made it available on DVD in the UK in 2011. Um, but Bloody Disgusting gave it a 4.5 out of 5. And they did they praised the film's cinematography, music, and gory special effects, calling it one of their favorites. And I agree. I think that this movie had, while it was disturbing on so many levels, it had a lot going for it in terms of style and the music and all that. Although, like you said, those Italian songs were kind of weird.
Very weird and so oddly paced with the scene too.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
good.
Are you frozen, Rigor?
I hope not.
I think you are. Okay, now you're moving.
Oh, I see him moving.
Ears moving now.
These
Okay.
aren't my real hands. I have puppet hands here.
Rigor, did you
The
kill
live
someone? Are
stream's
you
moving
holding up
too.
their hands?
Um, yeah, so I don't have a whole heck of a lot more to say about this film other than, it's got a lot of disturbing themes in it, but
I did appreciate the change of scenery, honestly. Like I was just so happy that it wasn't in the city because I was starting to get sort of claustrophobic because it seems like a lot of these films that are filmed like in Rome are like claustrophobic, and I don't know if that's done intentionally or if that's just because how the city's mapped.
maybe.
I agree. I thought the setting for this movie was really dis unsettling. And you don't really see a lot of movies. Well, some of Bava's stuff, like Kill Baby Kill, took place in a village like this. But, this was sort of like a almost a cliche thing, I guess, in the old horror of the 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s. And then they got away from it by bringing it into the cities. And this is sort of like in between those two eras of, they deliberately put it back in a rural setting, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah. I mean, that's why a movie like 2000 Maniacs works because it's
Yeah,
Love
the
this
city,
movie so much. Oh God.
that movie's a mess. I love
Oh,
it.
I love it so much. We might watch it later.
I definitely think people, though, if you're gonna start venturing into Giallo territory, I think this is a one to watch. Um,
First, I think this should be watched first, like in the group of films that we're talking about tonight. If you guys are going to watch these films, you should watch this film actually before you watch
yeah.
anything else.
I'd like to recommend another Fulci Giallo instead, Lizard in a Woman's Skin.
Oh, yes.
Ooh,
That's something that you definitely should look up because there's just like the most bizarre shit happens in this movie. It's way more exciting than Don't Torture a Duckling. And it's got some Florinda Balkan is in both films. She's probably not the only cast holdover from Don't Torture a Duckling, but they were made right around the same time. The one was a year before the other. I forget what order they came in, but definitely look up Lizard in a Woman's Skin. And Don't Torture Ducklings, okay. Not my favorite Fulci, but how can you go wrong when if it's Fulci, it's okay.
Right. Exactly. I just want to confirm that now. So don't torture a duckling was 72 and whatchamacallit, lizard in a woman's skin. Hold on, I'll
I
look.
think that was 71, Lizard in a Woman's Skin. So that one came first, maybe. It was
It
released in
was
this,
very good.
was it?
Yep. What were you gonna say?
Um, Never mind. I got confused by something. I was going to say something that wasn't true.
Okay. Hey, that never stops me. All right, so next up, our last film for the evening is a film called Torso from 1973, also
ooh,
known as Carnal Violence, which I
like
think
that.
that was the European title, and over here they call it Torso. I've got some things to say about that, but first I'll read the synopsis. Someone is strangling co-eds in Perugia. The only clue is that the killer owns a red and black scarf, and the police are stumped, as they always are. American exchange student Jane and her friends decide to take a break from classes by going up to Danielle's uncle's villa in the country. Unfortunately, the killer decides to follow, and the women begin suffering a rapid attrition problem. What are you cracking up about over there, you?
This movie just, this movie is fucked.
Very.
This is a really weird movie. Again, like I think this is so silly, Torso, but it's really fun. And I don't know. I'll be interested to hear what you guys think about Torso.
Well, I want to go because I have some strong thoughts about this movie. It was a first time watch for me, but it's one of those ones down through the decades, you see the title Torso and your mind plays, goes on these wild tangents about what it could be about. And one thing about it was, first of all, the wife and I sat down and watched it, and she rarely gets scared in movies. And she was on the edge of your seat, hiding under her blanket through this one. It really got to her, and she really liked it.
Really?
Yeah, and I loved it too. I mean, I was on the edge of my seat as well throughout the whole thing. It was very well done. However, and I'm going to be upfront about this,
Uh-oh.
there are no actual torsos in this movie. I was expecting a cornucopia of torsos and missing limbs and heads, and none of that here.
It's true.
Very disappointing in an otherwise fantastic film.
But to interject here, they do make good use of excellent sound effects and suspense. I specifically I think of that one scene where like she's under the bed and
Yeah.
you hear the killer like
Yeah.
like chopping shit up and you can't see anything and all you can hear is just like these brutal like fucking hack noises and like blood dripping and all of that. And I think it does a good job in conveying like the sense of like impending doom without actually showing all of the torsos. That was the fucked up part about it though, because there were no torsos to be seen. There was a lot of alluding to it. Like we honestly like we were sort of like waiting for like a body or something to fucking fall out of one of the boxes or something. Like, you know, but
I'm like, I
that
came to
seemed
see a
to
movie called Torso. I want to see a torso.
yeah, but and that's like the unique thing I think about this film is that like there's no reference to the title of the film in the film. You don't see any torsos. So and then I thought that like there's like this weird part of like where the girl's getting ready to get killed and then all of out of nowhere there's like this beautiful scene of like the meadows and shit and I'm like wait a minute like is this like a Bed Bath and Beyond commercial or are we about to watch someone fucking get killed here like you know so it was really odd. I felt I do, like I said, again, being a musician, like I'm all about sounds and music and trying to create atmosphere and trying to convey a story without having all of the visuals. But that was sort of where it lost me at. So I'll say that. Maybe you guys might have hopefully one of you two might have something nicer to say about this film. It wasn't a bad film. It just, I was expecting like full blown out like death.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's what I was saying is that there were no torsos.
But and again, yeah, and you just took me back to why I cut you off was because the sound was cool, but there was no torsos. No torsos, guys.
I mean,
I guess that's
obviously they wanted to do the desired effect, which worked on me, which was I heard the title years ago, and my brain already had the film written out. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
definitely was at some point going to see it. Would you say that's correct, Bill? That they wanted people to think there was more than
oh sure. That's just good marketing. And it also traded on Carlo Ponti being the film's distributor in the States. The people who brought you Dr. Zhivago bring
Yeah.
you Burl Torso. It's an amazing TV spot. And I don't know how and they use the creepiest part of the movie, which is where the killer stalks that young woman through the
Yeah.
marsh.
yes.
If the whole movie had
Yep.
been like that, I
Like
would
that, yeah.
be into it. But because that part was really scary.
Yes.
That's
And
the best part of the film.
yeah, I think
And it
so.
was so short too.
Yeah, that trailer is on at the end of the movie on the VHS too.
Yeah, terribly short, that portion of the film. But this movie has a wonderful reputation. Loads of people love it. I don't know. I think there's better out there. And I did see it. It was at the Monsterama a couple years ago. There was a whole Giallo Palooza. This was
Oh
maybe
yes,
3 years ago. 2 nights, 8 movies, all Giallo.
Oh wow.
yeah.
And
I
it
don't
was
think I
kind of
got to that one.
well, after this is what a point that I wanted to be sure to make on the program tonight is that we went to see 8 Giallo films in a row, and I genuinely just started to get lost. I'm like, wait a minute, because they're all almost the same movie, but just like a little bit of tweak
Slightly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
here and there. And I started to get freaked out by like what I couldn't remember what the plot was for the movie that we were watching at that moment.
There-
So
a
they are
couple of
very
these,
similar.
a couple of these, the wife and I watched more than once because there was a point when I forget which one it was, and I looked at her, I go, "Do you have any idea what's going on here?" She's like, "No, I have no idea." But then at the end of the day, you're like, "Wow, that was really good." Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, so
I
I just
felt
wanted to talk. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I felt that way for years about Bay of Blood, another Mario Bava film that was, I think we talked about this on the show
Yeah, we
once,
talked
but it
about
might have
it.
been before Dantes joined us. Bay of Blood is another Mario Bava film that's just one of my favorites, and it's you see a lot of roots of the slasher film in it, especially Friday the 13th. There are some murders in Bay of Blood that were copied directly in the Friday the 13th series, and just like graphic moments of a machete and splitting a guy's face, um and that movie has the most convoluted plot. I just could not figure out what the fuck was happening in that movie, but I just kept watching it, and eventually I did get it. But it's a little confusing, and there's like flashbacks that we don't realize are flashbacks until it's too late, and then you're like even more confused than you were before it started. But definitely look up Bay of Blood, because that's
Which
another influential Bava film.
I love that title, and I love its alternate title, which is The Twitch of the Death Nerve. It's a great
It
title.
had numerous alternate titles,
Yeah.
including Chain Reaction, Snuff is My Game. It
Enough
was
is my game.
Snuff is My Game. It was
Wow. I have to watch it now.
only in the Boston area, I think.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
there were so many titles for Twitch of the Death Nerve. It's just astonishing.
That's funny. Before we get into the ads, I just wanted to mention the director Sergio Martino, who's he's got an awesome resume. He's 2019 After the Fall of New York from 1983,
Mhm.
Hands of Steel from 86, Island of the Fishmen, also known as Screamers, which I watched that last year, and from 1979, and a spaghetti western called A Man Called Blade from 77. And he's just got so many movies. I liked his directing here. I thought this was I I thought it was another again, I've in my mind of these four films, this one and Bird with the Crystal Plumage are sort of equal. I think they're
Yeah.
both up there for me. Just in these four. Then of course, like you said, Bill, you've mentioned there are other films out there.
I
Um
think the reason I hated Torso was because of Susie Kendall. Susie Kendall's character is so ineffectual. She's just
that's
like,
true.
all she can do is just cower under the bed and everything. And then there's that hysterical scene where she's like, like flickering the light down. She's trying to
Right.
signal them in the village using a little mirror.
Yes.
It's like, oh
Yeah, I
my God, will
remember.
the killer
Yeah.
please just find her and kill her?
Get it over with, right?
I thought that was kind of a clever way of getting someone's attention, though.
I was, yeah,
It was a little annoying.
it was a miracle of the script that it actually worked.
Yeah, that's true. Oh my God. All right. I'm going to open this and then I'm going to share it. Open with paint. I don't know. I got to set that to automatically do that every time. Oh, no, that's not what I wanted. Hold on. I'm going to open with photos. Photographs me, ask him knowingly. All right. And I'm going to share this because I always forget. And then I go blah, blah, blah. And you guys are like, we don't say anything. All right. Do you see this one?
Yes.
All right, cool. The Ghoul Chill Show. What a great ad.
Also, bow.
On the left here, though, are a couple of my favorite Hammer films. Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell, which
I
I
like the Hammer
really love.
films. Those were good.
Oh my God, that's so awesome. And
I
Captain
think
Total
those are actually a little better than the Giallo films, but
Yeah, I think you can't really compare them. They're different tones. You know, but I suppose that's a discussion for another day. But then we've got
yes.
Toasto there playing with Let's Scare Jessica to Death, which we have talked about on the show before.
We didn't cover that. Not since I've been on the show, I don't.
It must have been before you joined us because
Yeah, I
we
think
did that.
so.
Because there were like, did we do Blood Spattered Bride with that? We did like very similar films, Bill, right?
I don't remember what else we did. I know we talked about that on the show because that's one
Yeah,
of my all-time faves. Let's Scare Jessica to Death.
yeah. Oh, this was I took most of the page to show you guys just because I thought it was cool. Although, why is it not zooming in now? I hold on. Let me see if I can fix this.
Is that really how you spell R2D2? It's always been R2D2. I've
I've
never
seen it
seen.
spelt out like that before.
That is so bizarre.
Yeah,
R2D2.
you didn't typically see it written out like that.
Yeah, are you good? All right.
Almost looks like Elon Musk's poor child's name.
Which is what?
Some unpronounceable symbol, which is why his poor child will be teased for eternity.
The,
It's
the
like
Oh,
the
okay.
it's
person
like
formerly known as Elon Musk's child.
right, something like that.
All right, hold on. I stopped the
It's
share.
like elevator or something. I forget. I don't know.
No, why did
Elevator heights or elevator peak or something.
hold on. I'm trying to share the proper one.
You
Uh,
got rid of it, whatever you did.
Yeah, you
yeah,
did. It
It's
was
not
up.
there anymore.
I
We're just
know.
we're
I know.
just
I'm trying to.
sorry.
This is not. It's not working though. It keeps coming up.
What is it that you want to zoom in and show us?
There's a little thing I wanted to read here, and I can't read it because it's too small. And
Oh,
I mean, for some reason, it's using the wrong program. All right, let me just close this one. Then the good one will be. Oh, wait a minute. All right, it zooms in here. So then when I share it, because I care it, and then we share, it won't zoom in. But basically, it has a little description. This was when it came out. I just wanted to show you how like Star Wars was out at the same time here. Um, and that's a different Black Sunday. But Torso, an Italian horror production by Carlo Ponti, which mixes sex and violence. The Italian title, which translates as The Body Shows Signs of Carnal Violence, just about describes this gory X-rated film.
Yeah, that's a good
X-rated.
description. That's a really accurate description, though.
That's
77 was late for Torso, though. I mean, like that was definitely a reissue because it came out in 73, I think, in the States.
And there was another year I found, I can't remember which one, where it was 76 or 78 that had this exact same thing in it,
Yeah.
except without the Star Wars.
Well, it kept coming back. It was actually it was a co-feature with Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Hmm.
Like starting in 1975, those two movies showed together for years. Even into the 80s, sometimes you would see both of them at the same time. They were a couple
Right there.
for many years. They were an item.
And there we go. Torso plus Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Or you could go see Alice in Wonderland, an X-rated musical comedy with Fritz the
Yeah,
Cat.
starring Kristen DeBell. Christine.
Right. The world's favorite bedtime story is finally a bedtime story. And then we've got it again with Texas Chainsaw. So yeah, I can see how like over the years, me associating it with this kind of movie, oh, it's got to be about, dead bodies with no heads and arms falling out of the sky or something. Enter, if you dare, the bizarre world of the psychosexual mind. To keep your eyes open during every terror-saturated scene. Oh, we dare you to keep your eyes open during every terror-saturated scene of Torso. Now you could see both together for the first time.
God, that would have been okay. I would have been pissed off going to see Torso, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I would have been content, I suppose. At least there's a limb or two that's actually displayed. But
Not a lot of blood in that movie, surprisingly.
no,
Yeah, Texas
there's not.
Chainsaw is like the biggest fake out ever. That's one of the reasons I love it so much, is because it makes you think you saw all sorts of horrible things when
And it
really
really isn't, yeah.
you didn't see very much.
Yeah.
In fact, actually, now that I think about it, you're right. When they redid those, back like when I was in high school, there was a lot more blood in those.
Yeah,
I went
they
back.
really went for it.
Yeah, I looked back. I went back and looked at the original ones, and I was just like, damn. I was like, this movie really doesn't have a lot of gore. It's just the excellent storytelling that gets people like,
Hmm.
I'll never forget Texas Chainsaw 2 came out a, around the same time as Reanimator. I think my parents took me to see Reanimator, but that was NC-17. So even if you were with a parent or guardian, you weren't allowed in supposedly. So my father
really?
would go to the counter and buy the tickets, and my mother and I would hide on the other side of the theater, and then we'd hook up. But we saw Texas Chainsaw 2, which I loved. I freaking love that movie.
Yeah.
And at the end of the movie, my father, now it's me, my mother, and my father. He leans across my mother and he goes, "We are not going to see another movie like this again."
Oh, he didn't like it.
Because it was what's his name? Was it the hitchhiker? Not the hitchhiker, Bill Moseley's character chasing her with the razor blade, like slicing the backs of her legs as she's running up the thing and she goes crazy.
Yeah.
So I think that's what got to him. Even though my
Pop
parents
pop.
always took me to horror movies at that point, that was what, 1986? It's like too late now. Now you're not going to take me. All right, next one is another one. I love this whole the hand holding the saw. They get a lot of mileage out of that in these ads. And we could go to the Scrumpy Dump to see it too. So
What? The
That's an
Scrumpy
interesting
Dump.
name, Scrumpy Dump. I
Oh,
hope the movie theater looked cool.
yeah, I
you
want
know
to go there.
what a scrumpy dump this place is. Oh my God, it's so fun. And where is this from? The plane dealer. I don't know what city that is. And then it played around the same time as The Godfather Part 2,
Ooh.
which didn't have a didn't have a co-feature. It just had just that,
Did
whereas
you see Wednesday, March 12th is Barbara Streisand, Funny Lady is
right.
coming Wednesday, March 12th. This is a snapshot of film history here. There you go. Bam. You got Torso there, you got Godfather Part 2. Part 2. And then you got Barbara Streisand's Funny Lady.
Yeah. And
Wow.
then we've got Torso and Torso.
Oh, that's cool.
It's Haley
Oh,
Mills and Haley Mills in Torso.
Let's scare Jessica to death.
Yes.
there it is again. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and this one here, I wanted to show you that I grabbed this. It was playing at this theater, Sarasota, the Bee Ridge one. It's playing Torso at 8 and 11:15 and Deranged at 9:45.
Deranged. Now that movie does have severed limbs in it.
Yes.
Deranged gives you everything you thought you were going to see in Torso.
Hmm.
Right. That would have been a cool double feature though. All right, so I'm gonna stop the share because I believe that's all I've got for those. But yeah, I mean, Susie Kendall, she of course was Jane in this. She was in The Liquidator from 65, Thunderball from 65, Spasmo from 74.
Another Giallo.
Yeah.
Yep. Not to be confused with Spasms. Um, but yeah, this is the box that had the box. This is the back of the video box is the one that mentioned they had missing audio, which I thought was cool because I don't know if that exists. Did when you guys where did you guys watch this movie? On Tubi or
I watched some of it on Tubi, and at first first I started watching clips when I couldn't find the whole movie on YouTube, but eventually I had to go to Tubi.
oh okay, Bill?
I didn't rewatch this one because I've seen it so many times.
Oh,
I
okay.
didn't really need to.
Feel like I have vast amounts of knowledge about this film.
No, I just didn't want to watch it again. I was like, I'm pretty good with Torso.
I was
God,
just
it really bothered you that much, Bill, that you didn't want to see no torsos never again.
Well, no, it's not like that.
I was just
I like
wondering if
that so much. Where did you get that?
I don't know where this came from.
I like that.
that's awesome.
I think it's Mark's actually.
He should be a character on the show. He could like narrate. He could review the films.
I had it out because we watched a movie last night on the show called The Mighty Gorga, and
Mhm.
it literally has a monster in it that is it's this.
That's hilarious.
it's a T-Rex, and when they show it, it's just going like this. So
That's great.
pretty amazing.
That's
That's
great.
funny.
No, I just asked the question because I was curious if the version on Tubi also had the scenes with the missing dialogue done in Italian. Um, but this
Yeah.
movie, I love the soundtrack. I didn't get a chance to look up who did the music in this movie, but I think this is the one I love the music the most. Um, oh yeah, and so Bill, you mentioned the scene where the girl's in the swamp and the killer's chasing her. She falls, and the killer's walking slower than Jason. And I'm like, get up and run.
Somehow he catches up to her.
All I
God,
could
yeah.
think of was the scene in Austin Powers where he's on the steamroller and the guy's like 500 feet away going, no. It's like,
Ken is coming to kill
Oh
me.
my
yes,
God, that's so funny.
revenge. I love that movie. Oh, man. There was one guy where he looked like an old Greg Brady. I forget which character that was. I remember saying to my wife, I'm like, she's like, which one was that? I'm like, I think it was old Greg Brady. I'm not sure. He had glasses. Um, but yeah, Carnal Violence is a much better title for this movie. But I can see now that they paired it with Texas Chainsaw that they called it Torso.
Well, yeah, I mean, on the surface, though, that would be a perfect movie pairing. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a good pairing. Like, and until those people got in there and they were like, "What the fuck?"
Nary a torso in sight.
Not even a finger, y'all.
Oh, you
Yeah.
can
Like,
see plenty of torsos. They're just not attached. They're still attached to
Right.
all the limbs. They definitely show a lot of torso in torso.
Oh yeah. I thought the whole end sequence though, it played like a spaghetti western. It just had that feel to it. And I could tell that Sergio Martino was in his element here doing that.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, final thoughts on Torso. Bill, I think you've got some strong opinions.
yeah, let's let Bill go first.
I think I've said everything I could say about torso. I mean, it's so well loved. I even hesitate to say that I didn't like it, but I don't know, I just think it's kind of dull. I'm not into Susie Kendall's performance in it, although she is a shining star in well, every other movie she's in except Torso. So I don't know, but yeah, it's you could do worse than Torso.
Oh, absolutely. Dantes.
I will give Torso a good 7.5 out of 10 stars, just because I'm impressed with how much they had to overcompensate for the lack of torsos with audio. I thought that was creative. So I'll give them a good 7.5 for effort because you have to paint the suspense somehow, even if they're not going to show the gore that we were all waiting for. So
Right.
I will give them 7.5 out of 10 stars. Still a good movie though, guys. Even if I'm giving it 75%, it's still a good movie. Don't listen
The
to all.
passing grade.
Yes, all of make your own decision, of course.
Absolutely, absolutely. I found this to be unexpected. I mean, like I said, I've kind of already said this myself, is, growing up, I always thought it was a Texas Chainsaw like movie only with a lot more gore. But despite that, I have to say I loved it. I was on the edge of my seat through it. I told you the wife and I were terrified at a few scenes in it. Um, and yeah, it sort of, for me, this and Bird with the Crystal Plumage were my favorites of these four. And folks, we're definitely going to have to come back and revisit some
Yeah.
more Giallos, especially the ones that
These
you
were fun
mentioned.
movies to watch.
Yes. Yeah. And there's so
There's so
many. I mean,
much more to see.
yeah, we could dedicate a whole podcast to these things.
Yeah.
So, all right, folks. Well, thanks for joining us. Dantes, where can people find you online?
Facebook.com / Dantes Alexander me. Also, music is available, of course, on Spotify. Yeah.
Excellent. Bill.
Well, you can purchase Drive-In Asylum, the fanzine, at groovydoom.etsy.com. There's a brand new issue out, the 1980 yearbook,
Oh,
and
yay.
Igor has a feature in it.
Excellent.
Yeah, it just went on sale on Friday.
Oh,
So go
cool.
pick it up. Not you, but I mean, like
The viewers. I knew what you meant.
Buy now. Buy my album, buy his magazine, buy it
Excellent.
all.
Go to my website, go to havenpodcasts.com. We're starting to pick things back up again. Took a several month break because I moved, and pretty soon I'll be able to show you guys the office here and all that stuff, fun stuff. So you can find me there. You can also find me at soaphub.com, where I write all the news, the soap opera news that's fit to print, as well as soapcentral.com. So that's it. Next time we haven't quite figured out what we're going to do yet, but join us again and spread the word. You know, we want to get more viewers, more people, right, guys?
Yes, indeed.
All right. Well, take care, everyone. And I'm going to figure out how to stop the live stream because I can never. Ah, there we go.